Well, it's crunch time for our coalition. The act of passing the Finance Minister's contentious budget in Parliament this week threatens to destabilise the government of national unity. The African National Congress and the Democratic Alliance, the two biggest GNU partners, are at a policy crossroads: to hike or not to hike a value-added tax for all South Africans. Joining me next is our specialist journalist, writer-at-large Carol Paton, to help us navigate the political quagmire.
I do wish that the political parties could see it that way as well and say, well, we are a young democracy, we're finding our feet, this is a new situation. Let's not rush into decisions we might regret. But I don't think people are in the mood for that.
To stay tuned to the lead for every edition, please hit the follow button on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. My name's Graeme Raubenheimer. Let's chat all this and more right here on this very special edition of The Lead on News24. Will the current ANC and DA-led government of national unity survive these parties' fierce contestation of the national budget? Well, that's the question at the top of our newsroom's agenda today. Specialist journalist, writer-at-large Carol Paton is with me now in our Cape Town studios today. Carol, how are you doing?
Tired.
It's been a very, very busy week. Of course, not only did we have Good News Day, but we've been having this unfurling sort of political crisis, if you will, bubbling in the background, right?
Yep, not so much in the background. Well, for me anyway, definitely in the foreground, and it is a serious crisis. We are at a point where things could change and things could go wrong.
So the GNU was close to collapsing over the weekend. That's what News24 was reporting at the time. Internal negotiations between the ANC and the DA to chart a way forward regarding the disputed budget. They were then slightly more positive leading into the week. The DA, of course, has been dead set against any VAT increases. It even threatened to pull out of the GNU on Friday. But then we saw that the ANC was a little bit more keen to accept some of the DA's suggested proposals. Those included major reviews on spending, the devolution of rail, which we know that here in the Western Cape, the DA has been pushing for the longest time. And that was seemingly staving off any ANC and EFF possible agreement. The Rand was doing okay for a while, and then we knew that Parliament was going to come to a head this Wednesday in terms of passing the fiscal framework as we see it. But it's kind of taken a bit of a wild turn since then. Here enters Action SA.
Yes, very surprising. You know, the big picture is that we need to pass this budget. Parliament needs a budget. The Treasury needs a budget. And one would have expected that the ANC and the DA, as the main parties in the coalition, would have been able to reach an agreement on the budget. But what happened just shortly after the budget, I mean, we all know about the VAT increase, the proposed VAT increase, which, which everyone was against, except for the finance minister. We all know about that. But what then happened was that the DA really decided to get sticky about this. So they upped the ante and they piled on a whole list of demands. They said, if you want us to support the budget and support your 0.5% VAT increase, you're going to have to come to the party. You're going to have to do your economic reforms faster. You're going to have to take the economic crisis more seriously. And you're going to have to give us a place at the table in deciding and running the economy. And that has been the sticking point. So since then, things have deteriorated badly between the two parties, between the ANC and the DA. And at this point, there isn't an agreement. And so we saw the ANC, rather than persevering with the agreement and to make the agreement, and I think that there are reasons for that which are internal to the ANC. But the ANC decided to go for Plan B and to try and get this budget framework through without the help of the DA. And that's what they've done. They've done step one of that process. Ironically, they had to use Action SA to do it. Now, Action SA seems to be very badly advised, to put it mildly. And they believe that they have rejected the VAT increase and the increases that will effectively come to personal income tax through no inflation relief.
Because they're celebrating that at the moment, Carol.
They're celebrating. Yeah. They're celebrating. They think that they have scored a victory for South Africa. But in fact, what they've done is they have helped the ANC pass the fiscal framework. So the resolution that goes to the House this afternoon, the report that goes to the House this afternoon says, we accept the fiscal framework, but we advise the Treasury to go back, take out these tax increases and make a new plan. And that advice, unfortunately for Action SA and the ANC, has absolutely no legal standing. So what they've done is they've endorsed the budget unwittingly, and to reverse this now is going to be quite difficult.
Because we've also seen ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula come out, Carol, and basically say along those very similar lines of the VAT hike was never permanent. It's not permanent. It's something that could be retracted at a later stage. It's all about getting the fiscal framework through for now, right?
Exactly. So suddenly the ANC, which was really and the finance minister really determined to have this VAT increase moving down from 2% eventually to 0.5 this year and 0.5 next year. They've eventually decided, okay, well, maybe we can live without it. And that's where we're at now. But unfortunately, because Parliament is poised, and if this vote goes through this afternoon, if that vote passes, then the fiscal framework is passed and the VAT increase comes into effect automatically on the 1st of May. And there is the only way of stopping that VAT increase is to pass another law in Parliament to say we will not be increasing VAT.
And how plausible is it to pass something like that within the space of 48 hours?
It's not 48 hours that they need. Okay, so it comes into effect on 1 May. So they've got almost 30 days, but not quite. Lots of public holidays in there. And so they've got, but even that is not enough time. You know, that
doesn't sound plausible.
You would need such enormous cooperation from the rest of Parliament to do that. But now you've got a situation where you've really annoyed the DA. The MK and EFF are certainly not going to support, even though they don't support VAT, they're not going to support an ANC sponsored bill for free. They're going to want stuff. So no one is going to do this for free for the ANC. So it's going to be quite a difficult hill for them to climb. That said, let me just add one proviso. There is a chance that this afternoon when the vote happens, the National Assembly does not adopt the report and therefore does not accept the fiscal framework, because that could fail. I don't know, and nobody seems to know. And does the National Assembly then deliberate and come up with an alternative and vote? That seems to be what some people think. But even if that happens, the ANC plus Action SA and the IFP, those are the three parties who supported this motion, they need a majority, a simple majority in the House. And at this stage, they don't have a simple majority. It also, sorry to make such a long point, but also, as it all comes down to who's present in Parliament at 2 o'clock today. And we know that the ANC would need every single person there, and they have quite a poor attendance record.
Sure. And as per this reportage now on the front page of News24, ANC bosses tell caucus, we can't continue working with DA if it doesn't support the budget. One of the quotes out of that report comes from the ANC president, Cyril Ramaphosa. He was addressing, according to our reportage, an ANC caucus meeting just last night. And apparently Ramaphosa's emphasis, Carol, was on having given the DA, quote unquote, a long rope to hang itself, and that he felt that the DA had done this with its stance on the budget, especially its demands, which the ANC found to be unreasonable, but that the DA could still, in actual fact, vote along the ANC lines and put the budget through instead of making it, the problem, so to speak, in the ANC's eyes. It's really getting messy.
Look, if the GNU ends, both the DA and the ANC are going to be saying it wasn't me. Both of them are saying, you're the one who walked out, not me. And so we can expect that. And at this point, that is pretty much what's going to happen, because there's no scenario in which the DA suddenly says this afternoon, okay, ANC, we are now going to back you fully in this ridiculous motion, which both tries to amend and not amend the fiscal framework. There's no way that they're going to do that. So it looks more and more today like it's tickets for the GNU.
What? Okay. I thought this was really interesting as per the intricacies of the parliamentary committees that both the MK and the EFF, as per your report, Carol, had made counter proposals to Parliament appealing for, and I found this quite interesting, a wealth tax and an increase in corporate income tax as being sort of policy counter proposals to a VAT increase of sorts. Your views on that? Would that be something that the ANC entertains? I doubt it.
Look, if those things were viable options, they would have been done. And they haven't been done because companies shop around for jurisdictions. They don't stay in jurisdictions that tax them the highest. And we're really at the outer limit. So the Treasury sees as not a viable thing to increase corporate income tax. A wealth tax yields very little money. We're talking about the need to raise a lot of money. And a wealth tax is not going to raise 50 billion. Only a 2 percentage point hike of VAT, which means that all 60 million people are paying some kind of tax and not just a couple of, 100,000. That's the only way you can really raise a lot of money.
Seeing the Action SA and the IFP now throwing some sort of support behind the ANC, are there enough numbers there to pass any fiscal framework?
If every single MP is present, and the ANC and all the parties in the GNU, except for the DA and the Freedom Front, vote with the ANC, plus they get every single little party, BOSA and Al Jamaa and the Coloured People's Congress and all sorts of other little rats and mice that are lurking there in Parliament, all of them have to be present and all of them would have to support the ANC position. And that is not very likely. And in any case, you're never going to have a full house. You're not going to have 400 MPs present. So it's very much, as I was saying earlier, comes down to who's there on the day, and how will they vote.
I don't like speculation, and I know you don't like it either. But say, for example, hypothetically, this thing doesn't go through today. What does that mean for the parliamentary process, to your best knowledge, going forward?
Well, I'm not sure if they then have to amend the report in the National Assembly, in the actual sitting, or whether they kick it back to the committee. But basically, there has to be an acceptance or an amendment of the fiscal framework. That is essential. Government can carry on spending up to a certain point. So we're not going to run out of money. It's not like the US where the government shuts down and when the budget isn't passed. That won't happen. But the government will eventually run out of money because there isn't enough in the budget to last the entire year. They need to raise more money, which is what this budget was all about. And the second problem is that they can't transfer the monies to municipalities and provinces unless they move into the next step of the budget. So everybody is going to be short of money, basically. The country won't come to a standstill, but come the latter part of the year, there will not be money to pay our doctors, teachers, nurses, policemen, municipal workers, etc.
And then I thought I'd end off on this. For the person that's possibly listening as to this edition thus far, and wondering, why are we in this position? It would be simply to put that we've never experienced anything like this ever in democratic South African history. This is really a watershed moment. It will dictate how coalition politics on a national level will be conducted for many years to come, for decades to come. This is, in actual fact, us finding our feet in uncharted waters, right?
Very much so. And I do wish that the political parties could see it that way as well and say, well, we are a young democracy. We're finding our feet. This is a new situation. Let's not rush into decisions we might regret. But I don't think people are in the mood for that this morning, unfortunately.
And of course, we'll be giving you the very latest on the lead. And of course, the front page of News24 with expert analysis and the latest reportage from many of our journalists, including Carol Paton. Carol, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time on the lead.
Thanks, Graeme.
Well, that's been a very special edition of The Lead. We'll keep you updated on the GNU deliberations as soon as we get credible word. So stay tuned to both the News24 front page as well as this very podcast. If you'd like to be involved, mail your comments and voice notes to thelead@24.com to be included in our next edition. And be sure to follow our show on Spotify and Apple as daily episodes drop on News24, Spotify and Apple Monday to Thursday, usually at 7 p.m. Today's edition coming to you around midday. My name's Graeme Raubenheimer. So long as there's news, we'll have the lead.